Hey everybody, it's Dawson from Round 1, and today we're filming my 2023 In the Bag. It's officially tournament season, and everybody's playing in their first tournament, so we want to help you all know what you want and need for your first tournament bag, and here's mine. So for those who are new to this type of video, we're going to go disc by disc in my bag. We're going to say what they do and why they're in my bag. We're going to have deeper explanations about these discs in separate videos or on our post online, which you can see at www.round1discgolf.com. But for right now, we're just going to get into the main three categories: putters, mid-ranges, and drivers. So we're going to get into my putters. We have two major types. We have our putting putters and we have our throwing putters. So for my putting putters, I use the EMAC Judge and the Prime Plastic. I've been using this for about a year or two now. It's amazing. It feels great in the hands. It comes out smooth, and I can always rely on it to hit the chains. Now, I do carry two of these, and I like to have them with the exact same plastic. That way, if I'm just not feeling one for one day, I can just switch it out and go back to the old classics. So after those putting putters, we have our throwing putters, and really I have three. So I use this one more as a warm-up disc, and you'll understand why, and that is the MVP Glitch. So I use this in the mornings before the tournament just to get my form and my shape all ready for that morning, get myself loose, and get myself competent for that tournament. If the conditions are perfect, I will absolutely use this disc. It is amazing. But if there's any slight chance of wind, it's not getting used. So I have main throwing putters. I have a forehanding putter, and I have a backhanding putter. And you'll understand why. So for my forehands, I go for my Discraft Zone and the Big Z Plastic. This is a fantastic disc. I don't particularly care to backhand it, but I know whenever I forehand this disc, it's going to come out perfect. It's just going to slide out of my hands and go exactly where I want it to. I highly recommend this disc to anybody. And then, sticking with the trend of the Judges, I have the Judge and the Burst Plastic. So this one's a little bit more grippy. It stays in my hand a little bit longer, but I can always trust it to find the flop that I want it to and land right next to the basket. So now for my mid-ranges, I really use a very wide variety, and you're going to see that as I unpack them. So the first mid-ranges I'm going to pull out are not really mid-ranges, but I use them for the exact same way, and these are the Envies. Now, you've seen this disc in a review, so I'm not really going to talk about it too much. If you haven't, go back to our website, go back to our YouTube and watch it. I highly recommend. But now I also have this Team MVP Tour Series James Conrad Envy. This one is a little bit different. Those flat numbers are off just a touch, but it is very close to the same disc. But if you see this one, it is very beat up on the edges, and this thing will fly however you want it to. I can put a touch of Anheuser, and it'll be flying to the right before you know it. I love this disc. It is one of my all-time favorites. Now, going past that, I have one of my favorite utility discs, that is, and that is the Verdict in the Prime Plastic. Now, I don't know if you can see it that well on the camera, but this thing is about as flat as a piece of paper. And you just can't throw it on a backhand, so I use this as my get out of jail free card. Anytime I'm in the woods, I'm throwing this overhand, I'm putting on any line I want it to, and it will always find the basket. I always know it will. So this is a great disc. Moving on, I have my Truth, and also in Prime Plastic. You'll see a pattern here. This is a great disc. It's a very stable disc. We had it in one video, and it flips up flat perfectly, and it just glides forever. So if you really need a mid-range and you're struggling with distance, this is the disc to get. Moving past that, you've also seen this in a video. It is the Discraft Buzz and the Big Z Plastic. This is my favorite disc. If it's a little bit windy, I'm pulling out the Buzz. It will always follow the path that I need it to go to. It has a reliable finish, and it's just one of my favorite mid-ranges I've ever thrown. But it does pale in comparison to my favorite mid-range. That's my Fuse. A lot of people don't know about this disc, and it is a shame. This disc is fantastic. It is perfectly stable. Any line you put it on, it will follow. It always seems to stay in the fairway, and it is just fantastic. I highly recommend it to anybody who plays disc golf. And so now we're going to get back into my doubles, and I have two of the MVP Relays in the Neutron Plastic. So this is just kind of a nitpicky thing for me. I use this neon yellow one. I use this for backhands. It's a very overstable disc, and it will stay in a straight line. No matter how you throw it, it's going to stay in a straight line. And so for this white one, pretty much the same thing, but for forehand. It's not as overstable, so it's going to stay in the line, and it will have a little bit of a finish, but for the most part, this is staying where it needs to go. And that is my mid-ranges. Last but not least, every disc golfer's favorite part of their bag, their drivers. So my first driver I'm going to pull out is the Discraft Raptor. Now, I do not backhand this disc. It's just a little bit too beefy, a little bit too heavy for me backhand, but it is an amazing forehand disc. Anytime that I need it just to get down the fairway and have a big fade to the right, this disc will always have its back for me. And then the next one I have is a T-Bird 3 Star. I don't really throw a lot of Innova, but I love this disc. It is incredibly flippy. If I put on a big enough anhyzer, it will just circle the globe if I need it to. It's a very odd disc. I don't use it too much, but for the shots that I use it, it is amazing. So the next one is probably my favorite driver that I've ever had, and that is just the good old-fashioned Discraft Mantis and the Big Z plastic. This is one of the very few discs I've actually hit a tournament ace with, and since then, I've used nothing but it. It is a great disc. It is incredibly stable, and whatever line you need it to go on, it'll follow. It's also great for little forehand flicks, but that's not really what I use it for. Moving on, I have another new one. It is the Felon, the Ricky Wysocki Felon. It's a very gummy plastic, and I really like that gummy plastic. It's great for touch shots. I just really need it to get through one gap in the woods. It's going to find the gap. It's going to go right down it. It is fantastic. Not everybody's going to like it because of that gummy plastic, but it really sets it over the edge. Next, I have my Discraft Undertaker. This kind of fits into the same slot as the Felon, but when you throw it differently, just like every other disc, it's going to act very wildly. So this one, I put on a little bit more of an anhyzer touch and let it fade back. I can always trust this one no matter what the weather is. Super windy, no wind. It'll always find where I need it to go. It's just a great disc. Now finishing off with, I would probably say, my most iconic disc, and that is the Streamline Trace. Now, this Trace is fantastic for every shot you need it to. I know I've said that a lot about a lot of discs, but I mean it a lot about these. I have two of these, this purple and blue one. I've used this for every shot that I have for about 3 years now. It's never flipped over. It is just fantastic. I usually use it for forehand shots, and every now and then backhands, but it's just amazing. And this same thing this one's going to be the Sarah Holcomb Tour, actually. And I use this one for more of a backhand. It fits just a little bit to the right more. But absolutely, I highly recommend the Trace for anybody that has an 11-speed arm. Please trust me here and follow this out. And I just also want to shout out the Paratrooper bag. It has been fantastic. It's been by my side since before I started playing tournaments, and I highly recommend it. But hey, that's my 2023 in the bag. We're going to have all these in a separate blog post, so if you want to not listen to me and you just want to read about it, go ahead and go there. I don't blame you. And that is it, folks. So go ahead, like and subscribe, and go ahead and do anything.